So, I've been debating about this, so I'm going to do this just for the once. I got my Bengals hat on. I thought about wearing my Bengals jersey, but eh. Um, NFL. I obviously cheer for the Bengals and my love of the only other team I have a hat for, just the Chargers. See this? This is misery right here. This is misery as a sports fan. I know I'm the hockey guy, but there was a time when I would get up at 9 in the morning and I'd watch a game at 10, I'd watch a game at 1, I'd watch a game at 5. Sundays were great. And over a period of 30 years watching football, I don't know that I have a favorite player. I have guys I don't like. I have quarterbacks I don't like. I have coaches I'm not fond of. When I heard Sam Bradford got traded and that it wasn't just with the agreement that he wouldn't be traded back, that actual assets went the other way, I was like, I'm a Rams fan as well. And no, yeah, I have 3 teams in football too. I when I started watching football, which was in the mid '80s, um, no, actually, it was before that. The first Super Bowl I watched was between the Washington Redskins and the Miami Dolphins. So go ahead and go back and look. That was the first football game I ever watched from start to finish, and I really enjoyed it. And I was pulling for Miami, so of course they lost. Thus began a tradition. It has followed me through hockey, baseball, football. If I'm cheering for a team, they will usually lose. So I was so surprised the Royals won the World Series last year because I was certain that since I was cheering for them, they would lose. These guys, how many Super Bowls have they won? Well, I'll put it this way. It's the same number as these guys. And are they going to win this year? They have an equally good shot, even though this team is mostly garbage. And this team is probably going to be in the playoffs, but it doesn't matter. So, NFL preview. You know, I go with my gut quite a bit. I do. Because my gut is very often right. And news today is that Drew Brees has agreed to an extension on his contract with the Saints. Drew Brees is a quarterback that I really desperately wish I could go back in time and talk San Diego out of trading. Drew Brees is simply a fantastic quarterback who I am very, very glad got a Super Bowl with New Orleans because, notice I'm saying New Orleans. Um, he he's simply one of the best passing quarterbacks I've ever seen, and I did not understand and still don't understand why the Chargers traded him. Like I get it, Rivers was coming up. Philip Rivers has been fantastic, but this is Drew frickin' Brees. Like Drew Brees, I love Drew Brees. Okay, so let's go through each division, and this is my gut instinct because football, unlike hockey, to some extent baseball, there's a hierarchy, and sometimes it'll get mixed with a little bit, but it's usually pretty standard. AFC East belongs to New England. I don't care that Tom Brady is out for 4 games. It just means he's got 4 weeks to rest up and look amazing and fix his hair to look even better. And when he comes back, they'll probably be 3-1 because they're the Patriots. Brady's a fantastic quarterback, one of the best I've ever seen. And he's won too many Super Bowls not to be in that conversation. But the Patriots are a very well put together team. The funny thing is, even though they play out of Boston, well, Foxborough, I'm not a Patriots fan. I kind of was back in the 80s, but I was a fan of anybody out of the AFC in the 80s because I didn't want to see NFC teams win the Super Bowl, and they always did. It got kind of sad for a while there, trying to cheer for AFC teams knowing they were screwed. So you have New England as first, partly because their division is iffy at best. Miami's probably second. Miami will probably finish 9-7. Buffalo will probably finish 6-10. Buffalo will probably have a good start to the season. They usually do. They usually start 3-1 or 2-2. People are like, is this the year? Is Buffalo finally better? Is this the year? And then they lose like 4 in a row, and that's dead. Dead. I remember they went 3-1 to start the season. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and there was a big thing on. It was either NBC or CBS where they sat down with players of the Bills, and they had this whole segment where they talked about how the Bills are supposed to lose and what are they doing, and are you guys who wear your Bills? And it was sort of like, ha ha ha, look, they're good now, and then they crashed after, and I thought, do you guys realize you're talking to the Bills? And they're always on the verge of crashing. It's just sort of their thing. So it doesn't matter who their quarterback is. It doesn't matter who they draft. They're Buffalo. And the Jets, well, at least they don't have Sanchez anymore. Sanchez is gone. So do the Jets get better by subtraction? Maybe. But I still see them in the basement of that division. The North, the AFC North. You know, the Steelers are probably still first. I don't care what Cincinnati did last year. In my mind, Pittsburgh won the division, and Pittsburgh was great because Cincinnati went 8-0 to start the season, and I started talking about how Cincinnati deserved more respect, and the Bengals were performing really well, and they weren't being mentioned as one of the Super Bowl favorites, and I didn't think that was right. And then they crashed in the second half of the season, and I shut right up. So I would not be surprised if Pittsburgh wins the division. I would. Baltimore's due for a bounce back, you know. And again, I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care who's on the team. This is how these organizations work. It is the strangest thing in football. Baltimore's due for a bounce back. Cincinnati probably falls back a bit. And so you've got, uh, yeah, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland. Baltimore and Cincinnati may both be wild card teams because they're that good. The South. Oh, the South. Indianapolis wins the South because Andrew Luck. Fantastic quarterback, fantastic future for that kid. Um, Second, Houston by default. Then toss a coin in the air with Tennessee and Jacksonville because Jacksonville's terrible. Probably the worst organization in the NFL. But I don't know. Tennessee, I guess Tennessee over Jacksonville. AFC West. It is hard to pick Denver because the quarterback pitcher is iffy at this point. But Kansas City had to have a miracle last year to save their record, and Oakland and San Diego aren't going anywhere other than LA. Okay, they might both try to go to LA at the end of this year. We could have like 10 teams in LA by the end of 2018. The Rams just got there first. St. Louis just got there first. Oh, look, that's a reason to be wearing this because this team no longer exists in the NFL. So yeah, I guess Denver. I'd say Denver 10-6, Kansas City 9-7, Oakland. You look at Oakland and say, well, they can't be bad forever, and then they are. So 5-11, San Diego 5-11, and I say that as a Chargers fan, but and I love Rivers. I want to see Rivers win a Super Bowl before he retires, but I don't see it ever happening in San Diego. NFC East, 4 teams I don't like. This is the funny thing. The NFC East features 4 teams I genuinely in the playoffs will not be cheering for. They're the NHL California of the NFL. And I don't care if people don't get that reference. First place, Giants, likely. Second place, Dallas can't be bad for much longer. So I'll say Dallas has a good season. Philly. Now, I get it. Every year is the same. The Eagles are going to be better this year, and then they aren't. So I'll say, say the Eagles finish 8-8, and then Washington, the Skins will finish at the bottom of the division because they're in a rebuild forever. It's a perennial rebuild in Washington. Part of the reason I'm completely in favor of changing the name isn't just the racial overtones of the name, which are obvious, but the team needs a reset. Washington desperately needs a reset. The NFC North, which is where the good teams play. I love Green Bay. I love Aaron Rodgers. Um, Green Bay first. Chicago's defense is always fantastic. So I put them in second, say 9-7, but Minnesota 9-7 as well, and then Detroit. And Lions fans, I'm sorry. I like the Lions. I don't hate the Lions. I remember Barry Sanders when he single-handedly carried the team to a 10-6 record into the playoffs and then was gassed in the playoffs because he had to carry an entire team of football players on your back. You think it's tough carrying a hockey team? Try football teams where you got the linebackers and these guys who are 350, 400 pounds. My God. And Sanders did it. The NFC South, Atlanta? No, they've always found a way to screw up. New Orleans, Drew Brees, I love him, but he's 37. So Carolina, then. Panthers seem like the sexy pick for the Super Bowl this year. Wouldn't surprise me if they won it. So I'll say Carolina first, Atlanta second, New Orleans and Tampa fighting it out for third. Probably both narrowly below 500. And the NFC West. I'm supposed to cheer for the Seahawks. I am told every year I'm supposed to cheer for the Seahawks because I live near Vancouver. So because the Pacific Northwest is right down the road, I'm supposed to cheer for the Seahawks. I don't cheer for I used to try. Okay. I remember the Steve Largent days, and I cheered for them back then. And then poor Cortez Kennedy was a beast who was the only good player on a team full of nobodies. And the Seahawks couldn't score. They decided Rick Meyer was the solution to that problem. That was fantastic. And then there was the fantastic coin toss with we're going to receive and we're going to win. I know it wasn't Rick Meyer. It's a quarterback a while after him. I can't remember. There's been so many quarterbacks in Seattle before they smartened up and got a good one. That's going to drive me nuts now. The name's on the tip of my tongue. It's going to drive me insane. Because I liked him too. He was a good quarterback. But you don't say that through a live microphone in front of an entire crowd. We're going to receive and we're going to win. And then they lose. And they lose dramatically, like just spectacularly. Seattle's the class of the division, though. All memories aside, Seattle's the class of this division. San Francisco, does the Kaepernick thing help them or hurt them? I know Kaepernick's the backup. Does the distraction help them or hurt them? Arizona. Does Arizona take advantage and do they get second place? I'm going to say San Francisco gets second. Arizona gets third. The Rams, they're rebuilding. Being a Rams fan in the 80s sucked because our quarterback was Jim Everett, better known as the guy who didn't want to get called Chris and dove at a guy interviewing him who was poking him. Not that Rome didn't deserve to get jumped and punched in the face. Believe me, Jim Rome deserved it. It's Jim Rome, I believe, yeah. But, Everett's, bet you won't call me Chris again. Bet you I will, Chris. And it's like, it was bad. It was like a badly scripted show, is what it was during that. And it's like, you watch Everett, and he couldn't even legit beat the guy up. It was like, you're proving his point. And he was a terrible quarterback. And I was a Rams fan. And every year, I would go, oh, maybe this is the Rams' year. And then I'd remember, oh, right. He has to play Joe Montana twice in a year. And then if they make the playoffs, he has to face Joe Montana. Yeah, we're screwed. And then Montana starts getting older, and you're like, oh, maybe there's hope. And then Steve Young comes along, and he's better than Montana. It's like, no, he can throw like Montana, but he can run. Oh, that'll get some comments. Joe Montana's the greatest quarterback in history. I agree. But at the end of his run, Steve Young was a better quarterback than Joe Montana. He wasn't better than Joe Montana in his prime, but he was the better quarterback. To the point where when they were both on the team, to me it seemed kind of awkward that Young would be on the bench and Montana would be on the field because Steve Young brought something so completely different to a football game. He was so much fun to watch. He was sort of like a LaMarcus Russell who actually can play football. So there's a little Raider shot in there. I don't talk about football because this is a hockey channel, but I love NFL football. I love watching it. Part of the problem with working Sundays is I don't really get to see it. And with this channel now, um, it would be counterproductive for me to watch a lot of football when I get home on a Sunday from work because I have videos to provide to you people. But I really enjoy NFL football. I do. And, these are not predictions that you can etch in stone. And I have no clue what teams have done what in the offseason. I'm just looking at logos, looking at team names, and going, here's the way it usually goes down. Here's how things usually work out. Because when you've got divisions where there's 4 teams in a division, due to the rivalries being what they are, and due to the fact that certain organizations just have fantastic luck. John Elway doesn't bring the Denver Broncos back with game-winning touchdowns 85 games in a row without some luck involved. There are a few things that make me rage at football, and it's mismanagement of the clock. It's when I see a team that's up by 4 points and they're throwing the ball. They got 3 minutes left in the game, and it's like, why are you throwing the ball? You've got to get time off the clock. If they're not in a position to score, why are you throwing the ball? You're risking an interception, and if they score, you don't have time to tie the game up. Prevent defense. Oh my God. Again, teams got the lead going to the fourth quarter, and they just back off. It's like, why are you giving them 10 yards? Well, we're just trying to kill the clock. Here's a good idea to kill the clock. Stop them and get the ball back. And teams do it, and I don't understand why. Even if you go into the third quarter and you're up by, say, 18 points, why are you letting them score? Why are you letting them score? Stop them. Stomp them. The good teams stomp their opponents. The teams that let the opposition get back in and win are usually a team that I cheer for, especially in the playoffs. I mean, the Bengals in the playoffs are just a disaster. And I genuinely, I think when people talk about, well, they need a new quarterback. Here's the thing. Let me just go ahead and Cincinnati's in here. I'll click on the Cincinnati link because it's one of those things that just drives me insane with Cincinnati. It goes back to Carson Palmer days. Oh, yeah, playoff or bust for Bengals after 2015 collapse. It's not just playoffs. Playoffs? Playoffs. I just want to win a game. You go out there to win the game. You play to win the game. Nobody just comes in there and says, I just played the game just to play it. You play to win the game. The Bears are who we thought they were, or the Packers are who we thought they were. Patriots, whoever it was, one of the good teams. Anyways, a lot of Cincinnati fans on the Facebook page for the Bengals said, trade Dalton. Andy Dalton sucks. Trade Dalton. Get rid of Dalton. Bengals need to start over. Get rid of Dalton. He's the best fucking quarterback in Bengals history. I'm sure Bengals fans would say Boomer Esiason, but they'd be crazy because I remember Boomer. And I like Boomer, and he's a good colored guy, and he was a good quarterback. He's not Andy Dalton. Carson Palmer, decent quarterback. They pitched him. It wasn't his problem. He wasn't the problem. What is it with my teams? Why can't I cheer for a Patriots? Why can't I cheer for a dynasty? Just for one bloody time in my life. I didn't even follow them in the preseason. Dalton Sharp, but Vikings beat Bengals. Doesn't matter. Bengals get a 30-14 win over the Lions. It's preseason. They lost to the Jaguars in the preseason. Doesn't matter. The the Jaguars game though, I watched the first 5 minutes of, and as soon as I saw Green get injured, I was like, I am turning this off now because if AJ Green doesn't play, the Bengals don't win. They are a team that is good, but they're thin in terms of being good. They're one or two players away from being average throwaway 8-8, 7-9 team. And Dalton's one of those guys. So when Bengals fans say, we should just trade Dalton, I'm like, you know what? Do it. Trade Dalton. Trade Dalton, bring in Bradford. Get Kyle Orton to come out of retirement. See what Tim Tebow's up to. And then come and talk to me about how, Dalton was the problem when you're 0-16. I don't appreciate that at all. I hate that. And it happens in hockey, and I talk about it in hockey, but it happens in football too. Fans pile on to the star player. It's his fault when it's not his fault. Dalton is a warrior. The guy makes passes during a game that bring me out of my seat because I don't know how he threads the needle like he does. And when the Bengals are on, they're scary talented and they're really, really good, which is why it's so frustrating as a fan to watch the playoffs, and then they just blow. And it's a Bengals tradition that goes back to their Super Bowl appearance against Montana. The thing is, they barely lost that game to Montana. And there was a call that went against them, and they never recovered from it. To this day, I still think that the referee was in the Niners' pocket. There was rumors about that back then, that the Niners had referees and officials in their pocket. The truth is, the Niners were just that damn good. Every time, you'd watch a Niners player, whether it was Rice or any of their good players, Craig, any of them, and they'd retire. And you go, okay, cool. And then Stokes comes along. Like, there would be another star player to replace the one that was retiring. And it's like, no, stop it. Just stop. The Dallas Cowboys kind of had that going on too. And then the Cowboys were just such giant douchebags that eventually they were unable to continue. I have a Ryan Kessler-like love for the Dallas Cowboys. I do. I always have. It's just I'm not a Cowboys fan. The only player of the Cowboys I really liked, I loved Emmitt Smith. I cannot lie, Emmitt Smith was amazing. And Ed Too Tall Jones. Because, the man's a beast. But in general, not a Cowboys fan. Emmitt Smith fan, absolutely. Probably, geez, if I had to pick if he was the best running back I ever saw. As a Chargers fan, I want to say Natrone Means, but that would be a lie. Defensively, Junior Seau was my favorite player ever. May he rest in peace. Seriously, Seau's eyes were awesome. His crazy eyes that he would throw, and you could just tell the offense to the side of the field was like, what's he doing right now? Seau was amazing, and he'd bounce back and forth, and he'd be completely out of position. And then when that ball was snapped, he was in the exact right spot. Anyways, but yeah, Emmitt Smith would be, I think, between him and Barry Sanders. Holy crap, that is a tough call. Yeah. But yeah, so that's my feelings on the NFL season. I just figured I would throw out an NFL video for people who may be south of the border or maybe in Canada. And if you're Canadian and you're about to ask, I haven't watched a single CFL game this year. I haven't watched a single CFL game in a long time. Even the Grey Cup, I don't care. When the Canadian League has 8 teams, they might have 9 now. I know they have Ottawa, so I guess it's 9 teams. And 6 of them make the playoffs. And I just don't find it exciting to watch. I just don't. I don't enjoy watching it. I don't begrudge their players. I know this. When NFL players come up north of the border, you can tell, in some cases, Andre Rison, sorry, Bad Moon Rison. Andre Rison, when he came up, it was along the lines of, well, my career's struggling, so I'm just going to come up and dominate the CFL. So they come up with this attitude of, I'm going to dominate the CFL, and then they get squashed. They get absolutely squashed. Ricky Williams, disaster in the CFL. And I love that. I can watch that all day long. That I will watch. If there's an NFL star coming up north of the border to try to feast on us weaklings in the CFL, I will watch that because I know they're going to fail. It's a completely different game. For me, it's not as entertaining. I don't enjoy watching it, but I do get a kick out of American players coming up to the CFL with the attitude of, I'm a star, I'm going to dominate. And then because it's 3 downs, the field's longer, the field's wider, the game's played different, players are a lot faster and smaller. It's a completely different game, and they can't play it. It is the most fun I have watching the CFL, and I look forward to seeing more struggling, aging NFL players come up north of the border and struggle and age and retire because they're just not good enough. It's or you also have that too. Players who aren't quite good enough to make the NFL team come up to the CFL, and there's been numerous cases in the last couple of years where this happens. The guy comes up, I'm going to play in the CFL, and then the CFL team cuts them, and you can almost see like this shock and dismay that they got cut by the CFL. Well, sorry, if you're not a good enough player for the NFL, and if it's due to your speed, you're not going to make it in the CFL. Anyways, that's enough football. And I've got all that off my chest. Thank you very much for watching if you made it this far. And I will go back to hockey. I promise. This is just one of those. I do watch other sports. And I really enjoy the NFL. And it's starting on Sunday, so I figured I'd throw my predictions up there and we'll see how I do at the end of the year. Again, I did no prep for this. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to make my predictions and see where it ends up. And there's 4 teams in each division, so I have a relatively decent shot of being right. We'll see. Thanks for watching.